wasn't about money. Now, bear in mind that he's been earning under his contract at PSG for the last coming up to 2 years, 72 million euros a year before tax. So that's about 56 million net with the French tax laws as they are. It looks like he'll get around 35 million euros a year at Real Madrid. So we're talking about him taking a 50% pay cut. Now, he was always going to choose PSG if it was down to the money. But we always said it wasn't down to the money. That wouldn't be solely what his decision was about.
Now, but Andy, it's 2024 in football. He may be taking a pay cut on what he gets in his brown envelope at the end of the week. There's one for the teenagers. But he's going to make up for it in some other ways.
Yes, he is, it looks like. And of course, the fact is he'll be leaving around 80 million on the table as well in terms of loyalty bonus. That's how he got himself back into the team at PSG in late summer autumn by agreeing to that. What he would be, of course, because a free transfer is a free transfer, it's not free. There's always a huge signing on fee. So he'd be getting estimated 150 million signing on fee from Real Madrid, and very unusually for Real Madrid, they would be letting him keep the majority of his image rights, which obviously could run into not even the tens of millions, the hundreds of millions, really.
Amazing. It's an amazing thought. 150 million euros signing on fee. Amazing, Andy. Which then leaves us with, let's assume this is all correct, and the kinds of names you are saying at this time, and the fact that we've heard nothing against it from Nasser Al-Khelaifi means that we think it's correct. Which leaves Paris Saint-Germain, and we'll get on to the Real Madrid side of this a little later when we discuss the Real Madrid derby that's going on as we speak at the moment. It leaves Paris Saint-Germain, it seems to me, Andy, with two issues immediately. We'll talk about their football culture going forward in a while. The replacement of Mbappe is two things, isn't it? You've got to replace him as a footballer, and maybe separately or with the same person, replace him as a marquee name, because he is the name over the door at Paris, isn't he?
Yeah, he is, Danny. And whereas we might sit here with our pseudo-intellectual bonnets on and say how PSG are getting themselves in a position where eventually they can win the Champions League by slowly dismantling that superstar front three that they couldn't win it with because they weren't good enough off the ball. The fact is that if within a year you lose the ownership of Neymar, Leo Messi, and Kylian Mbappe, the three of the most recognisable football personalities of the last 20 years, that is going to leave a massive commercial hole. It doesn't matter how good the players are you replace them with are. Arguably, unless it was Erling Haaland, I really don't think there's any chance of him going to PSG, because he has a career plan also, which is arguably even more detailed than Mbappe's, and again does not prioritise money in any way, shape or form.
He's so good that the money will come. He knows that, of course.
Yes, I think so. And so I think you look at who could replace him. They've got so much money. It seems that their top target is Rafael Leao. Now, of course, not a like for like, although he would slot into the left side of attack. If he goes, he's just signed a new contract, of course. Milan would only accept, though at least this is their public position, the release clause, which is 170 million euros. They can afford it, of course. But are you paying 170 million for Rafael Leao? A fine player, and of course an erstwhile MVP of Serie A, but of the same profile as Mbappe? I don't think so.
And in a world where you could
Victor Osimhen would be more
for 50 million euros less, if you could read these figures about.
Yes.
It is a tremendously difficult one to see for Paris here. They have the riches of creases to draw upon, but finding a replacement for him, as you say, in terms of playing ability and a replacement in terms of glitter, global glitter, if I might use that phrase. And that takes me to my next question, Andy. We can talk about Paris Saint-Germain because we're in the face. There's another person that's stakeholder here, and that is French football. Now, oddly, and we'll get onto this later on, the French club spent more money in the transfer window than any other league, which is just beyond bewildering, partly because it's so quiet in the transfer window in England. And what will this mean for French football? Because Messi, Neymar, and Mbappe, as well as being Paris's three biggest names, are French football's three biggest names. What does it mean for the look and the commercial prospects of Liga in the future?
It's really serious, Danny, and especially at a moment like this when there's considerable doubt before we even get to global exposure over the domestic team. Because remember, if we go back to that Media Pro deal, which they signed going on 4 years ago, which looked too good to be true, and it was because it fell apart about 3 months down the line. So they burned a load of relationships with existing stakeholders like Canal Plus, the league, to get that deal signed. And it's been a difficult sort of situation since. They've been going, they believe, below market value. They had an open bidding process for the league rights earlier this season, which failed to yield anything like the sort of offers that they wanted. And now, as we said, they've got to try and get these offers without the sort of superstars that they've been used to. And, if you go back and look at the previous PSG overlap, the previous superstar they had is Zlatan Ibrahimovic. There's no one of that profile potentially there next season. And if they lose the biggest star in French football, that's something that the prospective broadcasters surely will use to drive the figures down. So this is not something that's just going to have an effect on PSG or Marseille or Lyon or clubs like that, but on other clubs. You look at Lorient or you look at Reims or clubs like that. It will have a massive effect on them surely, and that's before we get to that international projection that we're thinking about.
The problem is, having lost those three, I can't think of a player or even two players they could choose from or bring in who could replace that stage presence.
No, not really. I mean, it almost has to be someone at their peak in the Premier League. And of course PSG have the money to do that. But do they have the cachet to do that? And does French football have the pull to get someone to say no to the Premier League? Say, for example, say Harry Kane was still on the market.
Sure. That would be the obvious choice better a year ago, not now.
Exactly, but say if he would stayed at Spurs and he was on free this summer, would he go?
Well, he'd be on the bench, wouldn't he, now behind Richarlison, let's be truthful. But
yeah, well, obviously. Would he go to PSG ahead of Real Madrid or Bayern or Manchester United even?
No.
I think no.
Really interesting, but that's the story we have for you. Kylian Mbappe has let his prospective employers and his current owners, if you like to use that phrase, know that he will be moving in the summer. Don't worry about his wage